the main writers have gone on record to say that for writing, they were inspired from Naruto of all things.
Oh, no.
I can see that.
Yes. Anonymous asks, will all of the unfinished routes eventually be finished even though the work has started on Jade 2? How do you juggle developing current game and the sequel?
Again, it's a matter of budget and producing a schedule. Like the only reason why we could start working on JPD2 was because the main story of JPD1 is finished. So we could take some of the regular funding that we had to use for JPD1 and put it into JPD2. Also, it helps the more the Patreon grows, the more funds available we have for the game. But yeah, like if the Patreon continues supporting us, they keep nominating stuff, and we keep getting nominations for the kind of stories. Yeah, I don't see any reason why we would stop putting new stuff in JPD1 for the immediate future, really.
Are you planning to make like an animation for the game?
An animation is something that I can't say that I haven't thought of that kind of stuff. Like maybe a short clip or something, I don't know, maybe an animated version of an event or a fight in the game. I think I would like to do that, but again, it's, first of all, you need someone who knows how to work with that kind of software. You need an animator, you need a coder, etc. Like I can write, I can structure it, I can make the script for that kind of stuff, I can help with the pacing and everything, the cutting, the point of view. I can direct, I can write, I can direct, but I cannot animate. And I think that would involve some costs because you had to commission the models. Bunny Void can make 3D models, she can make background cutters, absolutely. But like let's say we want to make a small scene of a fight in the game. Okay, she makes the background location. Then you need someone to make the 3D models, and then you need someone to animate them. So like it's a costly endeavor. It takes time, and it's not something we can get into. We don't have a kind of funding, and I honestly wouldn't know where to find someone to make 3D models, because I tried when I want to make the original version of JPD2. It seems like no one is taking commission for 3D model cutters anymore. They all move to making VTubers or VR chat models. They make a lot of money doing those, and they work less. So why would they open commissions anymore?
Yeah, and in case of you who thought like, why don't you like submit it to a studio? That's going to cost around like $30,000 to $50,000 for like a 3-minute video. So yeah. Yeah,
no.
But you know, if you are like an animator and you want to animate some of this, then feel free to reach out to Meinos. Maybe we can work something out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want.
Okay, so in version 4.04, which is the first game, in beacon and fail navigation screen still have temporary written in the corner. There's also several instances of events still to be added after meeting Agni, and actually before that event. So are you going to replace those backgrounds?
Yes. Those sadly are some of the some leftovers from basically the original, because the temporary are literally screenshots from the original RWBY concept art that they need to be replaced. We also had the meteor thing that also need to be replaced. So yes, they can and will be replaced, because again, it's budget. Like next month, instead of having 2 CGs for the date, I guess we'll just make 1 CG for the dates, which is only 1 date, and the other CG is going to be to replace one of the backgrounds. Oh. Because it's not, I guess, yeah, let's do it. So people will stop asking about that. Okay,
so Rick kind of asked about the possibility of importing from the first game to the second game, the save file, which is impossible because this is a different program. Well, it is actually possible, but it's going to take too much effort. Yeah.
We're gonna just have a questionnaire at the beginning of JPD2 asking you what you did at certain points in the first game, and that's going to be it.
How far have you thought about the future plots in the future volumes? And I'm going to pair it up with the next question. And just curious, will the series of Jade wrap up in the second game, or should we be excited for a possible trilogy?
Ooh, okay. let's just say that for JPD2, I have a story in mind that could also be concluded with the second game. There are some things in it that could be used to go into a third game. It's not something that would come out of nowhere if I ever decide to do that. But it depends on what is going to look like when we actually finish JPD2, what the Patreon is going to look like, what my situation is going to look like with the other projects. I'm not saying that it's impossible. It's very possible, but I can say that at that point it's going to be yet another different kind of game. Maybe it's not going to be a JRPG anymore. It could become a tactical RPG, like Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't know, because the thing is, JPDE, I'm always going to be thankful with it because it allowed me to do two things. First, to get to know a way of doing it allowed me to learn how to develop games, to code and everything, but it also allows me to experiment with different things. The first one allowed me to experiment with making visual novels. JPD2 is going to allow me to experiment making JRPGs. If we ever make a JPD3, I definitely going to want to experiment with something new. It's not impossible, but at the same time, JPD has a story that could also finish with the second chapter. So, maybe.
ResurrectedWriter asks, well, implying that this writer has been dead before. So, are there any other series you'd potentially like to make a fan game of? This series was so good, I feel I want to see this magic applied to other series as well.
Well, we're trying to make a My Hero Academia game right now, but the thing is that no more. I have to do a My Hero Academia game that we're trying to make, and then the JPD, that's enough fun games. I also want to try and make my own original stuff now. So I can't say that would happen. The only way that could ever happen is me working already established IP. If the game whatever, the owners hire me in a capacity to do something for that IP. But if you want to see me working on any already established IPs, they need to pay me, and they need to pay me well. That's the only way that's ever going to happen. You want to see me make a Dragon Ball or DC or whatever, anything my way, they need to pay me, and they need to pay me well. I don't work for peanuts. I don't work for internships. I don't work for the whatever. Get
exposure.
Exposure. No. I know what I'm worth. You need to pay.
So what didn't make the cut? And discarded story, character, ideas?
Well, I remember someone once wanted to nominate as a character to add to the game. You remember in the first season of RWBY where they couldn't afford the background character model, so they just used the black version of the main character models. So I want to make a character out of a silhouette, basically, on Nora. And that sadly didn't make the cut in JPD1.
But in the sequel...
There are some things that changed, let's say, in translation, but I can't say there is anything that ended up on the cutting board, because again, what the new cutters and new routes get out of the game are left to the patrons. And when it comes to the main story, because I leave myself so much space, it's less that there is nothing that's been left on the cutting board, but there's a lot of stuff that's been added that I didn't even think of in the beginning, but it came up and now it's in the game. So I'm really thankful that I've been able to do that because I have a lot of freedom, because it's my own game, it's a fun game, it's funded by Patreon, so I have to respect any strict fiscal deadline. So I have the freedom to put in the game as much and as many things as I want, as long as they make sense, you know.
Yeah, and be glad that you are your own producer. Otherwise, other producers might be very ruthless about editing things and cutting things in the development.
Which is not a fault. Our project is Patreon funded. It gets updated monthly. In a traditional producing environment, that's completely different. So limiting things on the cutting board, it's completely fine. It's not something that should be demonized. I don't have that, and I'm thankful for it. But at the same time, I can understand why producers have to be very careful. And also from a writing point of view, there are some things because I'm my own producer and my own writer, and I'm also very particular about things making sense with the characters and the lore and the world building. I fortunately have never added so far things that clash and are like, what the hell did you just... So yeah, I can understand why that has to be the case from both a producing and a writing point of view.
Okay, this is the moment you've been waiting for, Meinos. What are your thoughts on the RWBY show in general?
Oh boy. In 2 words, wasted potential.
I agree.
Wasted potential, because I cannot deny that once I started watching the first 3 seasons, I came to it in a roundabout way. But I remember watching the first 3 seasons until 2.5 through 3/4. I really liked it. I really liked the setting. I really liked the characters, the designs. There was just such an attention to detail, and I feel like a big part of that is the excesses, those personal flourishes that they wanted to add to the series. Like, I remember in the 2nd season, The Breach, at a certain point, you had a flaming corgi projectile.
Yeah.
Like, that's completely ridiculous, but it gives you a hint that things like are very personal, very particular. There was a very peculiar thing about RWBY, a very peculiar sensation. This thing is its own thing. It's special. It can be a bit wishy-washy. Some things that maybe they are not explained, but not everything needs to be explained. I don't know how to explain it properly, but it was someone's vision that was put on paper with some limitations, of course, but it was there. Then from middle season 3, and then season 4, it started losing the magic. The switch to Maya from Poser, I think, was the original thing. Higher fidelity, higher detail, whatever, but it lost a bit. The design suffered for the switch to Maya, I feel. Also, the animation suffered for the switch to Maya, because again, it's like the engine. When we talk about Unity and Unreal, when you can do everything, it's like you don't do anything. Like, it lost a bit of the personality, and they had to learn learn how to program fights, how to move. That's a work in progress, though. I can understand that. But what I can really I really didn't like is how they went into the trappings of over-analyzing stuff, over-explaining stuff, and doing things for shock value and for story purpose, because I want the story to go there, even if it doesn't make any sense for the characters to act a certain way. Or there are the certain camera, certain direction moments are needless or excessive, and you only do it because you want this thing, you want this emotional response for the audience. And I don't like the kind of story. It's not something that is only RWBY, but with RWBY was, again, very egregious. Well, again, with Penny's death, and then in season 4, that campfire scene, where they take away all the mysticism from the world, from the villains, from the menace. The Grimm, I remember, at the beginning, there were these mysterious race of monsters. No one knew where they came from, no one knew why they did the things they did. And there was a mystery, a mysticism that tied into the fairy tale inspired setting that the series was born out of. From season 4 on, it just became another anime. RWBY was its own special, particular thing in the first 3 seasons. From season 4 onward, it became just another anime. And considering that the main writers have gone on record to say that for writing, they were inspired from Naruto, of all things,
Oh, no.
I can see that.
Yes.
I can see that very well. Naruto went to the same thing. I've been reading Naruto since 2001. I remember buying the first volume, volume 2, at a bookshop. I followed it all the way until I was an adult, and he went through the same thing. First, it was his own thing, and then it lost itself to tropes. The thing is that what I consider fiction, when I write fiction, when I write entertainment, is like building a house. Every layer needs to be proper. It needs to be sturdy. No, it doesn't matter if after a while you put like a very nice chromed window, very well done. If you put it on a very faulty foundation, it's going to crumble. So, for example, I really like the backstory that they gave to Osbin and Salem. That I really liked. The flashbacks at the beginning, at the Age of the Gods, basically. I really like it. There are some elements from it that I don't, but overall, that's a very interesting concept. The problem is how they explained it, how they exposed it with the magic flashback MacGuffin, and how those things are, again, like, there are some good ideas, but the foundation now is mostly faulty. And I'm not like, okay, I did it with Naruto. Like, okay, I followed this for so many years of my life, maybe I can keep going, but then I reach a point, I can't do this anymore. So, like, I'm not following. I know all things that happen in it, but I don't follow it anymore since season 4. That was the last season I watched.
Yeah, it's actually the same for me. I watched volume 8. I watched volume 8 and I stopped at episode 2 because I think like the drama in that volume is kind of made up a little bit. So you know that this is the thing that you told me before. So they have like a certain flag points just like you do, but they will bend the characters to fit what they wanted them to do in that scene. So yes. That's what happened to Ironwood. That's what happened to the drama between the team. Like the most outrageous thing in the volume 6, that's why I pointed out to you, is
what is
the fact that they spent like 1.5 episodes just on flashback with Osbin and Salem. Oh boy!
And again, that's something that they could have hinted at and naturally progressed to it and made the characters discover, so the audience discovered it and all that. But no, lore dump. Well, that's another thing that could be interesting to have in the background, but you just blew your all over the place early.
Yeah, there's no
it's not a mystery anymore. Yeah. It's just there because, so people can make theory videos or reaction videos. No, stop it. You've been doing it since Terminator 2. Maybe people don't know about this, but Terminator 2, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the best of the franchise, whatever. They, in the first Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger was the bad guy. And they wanted to have the twist that in the second one, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a good guy, a twist that happens in the movie. So like people are like, but no, they spoiled it in the trailer. They spoiled the trailer for the movie. This has been happening more and more frequently since the 80s, and it's time to stop. It's okay to leave things a mystery. It's okay to not over-explain and over-analyze anything. Leave us some mystery, at least in our fiction. Please.
I don't know if this is like the change of culture or like the different generations, but some of the like this mainstream media, they think that the audience is stupid enough to think like to make like inferences to read this the subtext. Yeah, they kind of stupid enough to read the subtext.
Yeah, to me, I think though is not just that. It's not only that they think audiences are more stupid, that they cannot infer or wonder. The problem is also is that nowadays everyone wants to do a franchise. So more things you explain, more people you can get people more hyped up about more stuff, and you can make more stuff in that franchise. So the story, the franchise never ends.
Milk those cows, dude. We have to milk those cows till the last drops.
Yeah, if you leave things to mystery, that means that you cannot make a spin-off on that thing.
Oh, but Meinos, you can drop like a very little clip at the end of the season where you can just like, make the fandom explodes. That's what happened to season 3. The final volume.
Yeah, or season 2. Yeah, you can make a little clip of, two characters. Yes. That really pissed me off.
Yeah.
I have to say, that really pissed me off. If you play the game, you know what I did with Raymond. And you know that I did it exactly because that scene being dropped there and then being completely forgotten really pissed me off.
Oh, they don't forget, actually. They scrapped that.
Yeah, I know, but
They scrapped that. Okay, do you have any tips for anyone who wants to make fan-made games?
When it comes to making fun content, read the guidelines. Some companies are fine with you making fan content, others aren't. Some have specific guidelines. So read those and protect yourself. Because, for example, Nintendo, they're not going to bring you to court, but they're going to kill everything you do if it's about their IP.
Fan questions. James2171 asks, whose route are you most excited to write?
There is a couple routes that I'm very excited about writing because one thing that I got more comfortable writing about as I continued writing JPDE was writing about different, how can we say, relationship dynamics. It's not just about the relationship between David, Penny, and Evelyn. There's also, now there is the route with Coco and Velvet. There is other hints, like there is Nora and Ren. And that's guy, there is a couple more things that I have in mind. So now that I got very comfortable about writing some atypical types of relationships, at first I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can write this or they're going to accuse me to being a pervert, a weirdo, whatever. But now I'm very comfortable and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to write this.
You have to admit that this sort of like relationship things usually can only happen in fan fictions. In mainstream medias, you won't find anything like this.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, there are things that happen in reality though.
Yes. And
that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what made me more confident because it doesn't happen in mainstream media. That's absolutely true. They escape that kind of stuff like the plague. Only now they got comfortable about LGBTQ people and relationships. So go figure that kind of stuff. Only fan fiction, never in mainstream media. But the thing is, wait a minute, this stuff that I can see in real life. So who cares? I showed it, and also I showed that it's not. That there are some differences, there are some barriers that will be overcome, can be some citation and restrictions, whatever. I write it like it is. I don't use it as a way to titillate. Whenever people tell me, there is still things that people told me that David is a self-insert or that his relationship with Evelyn with Evelyn and Penny is an harem. That's not what it is. And it's not what it is because that's not the way I write it. That's simply it. And again, because it's either the normal way they write stuff in mainstream media or is the harem protagonist from the usual visual novels. I want to try and do something different.
If you want to find something like traditional relationship, you can go to the mainstream media. There's a lot of them. But if you want something new, comes to Meinos. What is your favorite character to write in Jade and RWBY?
From my original characters, a character that I really like writing for is Janara. I have to say Janara.
Oh.
Janara is probably my favorite character to write for because she's a very unique character. She's the youngest member of the cast. And
I don't know about that.
Well, okay, she's the youngest presenting, let's say that, youngest acting of the entire cast. The rock boy thing is a whole can of worms. But she's the youngest member of the cast, and she has very various relationships with different members of the cast. Some of them are pretty even plot important. And I don't know, I just, even in my fanfiction days, I never could write a character like Janara before. So I really like being able to write her, and it's very interesting. And I really can't wait to write her in JPD2 as well. Because if you remember what that little conversation that she had with Salem during the Fall of Beacon, she said something, and now the time is up. So I really can't wait to explore that thing in JPD2. From the original RWBY series, there's the thing though, because at this point, there is a lot of characters that they've gone beyond the scope of the original series.
Yeah.
So I get to say, I guess though that if I had to pick one character that I really like to write for from the original series, I had to admit that the character I enjoyed from the original series, I enjoyed writing, working on the most. It's Raven. It's Raven. I really enjoyed because it was a challenge, because I had to make her. I want to keep her some of her core personality traits from the series, but there are also some things that I need to change, and I really needed to put her as a character in the middle. Someone who knows what she wants and she knows how to pursue her goals and what to care about on the road to that goal. But at the same time, I couldn't make her a complete monster. So it was a challenge, and I really enjoyed what I ended up coming up with. So that was really good, and I really liked it. So yeah, definitely. So Janara for original characters and Raven for RWBY characters.
I don't know if you realize this, but Yang's fourth date, aka Raven's first date, is actually the longest route in the entire game. 80 minutes.
Oh.
That's why I actually have to split the video into like 40 minutes, 40 minutes pieces. So I know.
Well, that makes sense because originally the first date and the fourth date of Raven's first and Yang's fourth were two different things.
Oh.
But then as I wrote it, I realized that this cannot be as independent from each other as, say, Winter and Wise. So I had to put them together because it made more sense. And even now I had to ask, guys, would you mind if to get Yang's ending, you had to also do all of Raven's dates? Because I can't separate them. So yeah.